Welcome to Everything Casual, bringing you original football casual videos from the golden era of the 80s and 90s, right up to current day. Football away day stories and historic clashes between football firms. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We upload videos every week. In this video we look at the Steel City Derby. First we will listen to real accounts from members of Sheffield United's hooligan firm known as the Blades Business Crew and violent clashes they have had with Sheffield Wednesday's firm, and we will listen to their truthful opinion on the Owls hooligans. Then we will listen to true life, honest accounts from the Sheffield Wednesday Owls crime squad and their take on their fierce rivals, the Blades Business Crew. Then we will go over the history of Sheffield Wednesday versus Sheffield United, how the hatred started, the deep-rooted history and violent, brutal clashes that have happened between the two over the years. But let's get straight into it and listen to what former Blades top lad Steve Cowens has to say. The following is all Steve's own words taken from his book, Blades Business Crew. Here we go. On the 11th September 1999, myself and two mates went to watch Everton play Wednesday at Hillsborough. I was friendly with some of Everton's hooligans and was with three of them before the game when we were attacked by a mob of 25 Wednesday fans. I suppose I could have ignored it, but it's not in my nature. I was pissed off big time. They knew I was no longer involved in trouble, yet had still taken liberties. A few people were going to get it. Payback came 5 months later. Since the early 80s, Wednesday had had a rivalry with Derby County's firm, the Derby Lunatic Fringe, and for months they had been planning a big turnout for the game at Pride Park in February 2000. They also put it around that on their return from Derby, they were going to give it to the Blades. United were at home to Tranmere Rovers that day. I knew United's boys would be more than willing to accept the challenge. On February the 5th, Wednesday turned out a firm of between 250 to 300 lads, a huge show of numbers that they had never seemed to manage before. While they were in Derby, a few United boys kept in touch with them by mobile phone. It was agreed that United would wait in the Royal Standard, a pub about 800 metres from Sheffield railway station, and that Wednesday would head there on their return. The Royal Standard was an ideal place for it to go off. Not only was it close to the train station, but also there were no CCTV cameras in the vicinity. After watching United beat Tranmere 3-1 up to 90 Blades hooligans headed for the Royal Standard. All were seasoned football thugs. From the mood they were in, it wouldn't have mattered if Wednesday had 500 out. They knew that, of the Wednesday firm, perhaps only 50 were boys seasoned hooligans, and that left an awful lot of passengers who would not know what had hit them when a major off erupted. I had been in similar scenarios where United had a massive crew out, but far too many lightweights with us. Doubt creeps in. I had learned that you're much better off with smaller numbers, people you can trust. Wednesday were watched out of the station by one of our spotters, September. He reported that they were in fact heading away from where we were. Feeney was straight on the mobile to one of Wednesday's main actors. After half an hour, everyone started to get restless. It was up to us to go looking for them. As soon as we set off, the police were on our case. I hung back, knowing there was no way the busies would allow us to reach them. Wednesday's mob were in the Yorick pub on Division Street. As United headed up Trafalgar Street, which leads directly to Division Street, around 50 police blocked off the road. Still we approached the police line and, as the lads at the front reached it, the busies waded in, swinging their batons wildly. I stood on a corner 30 yards down the road. I could see a few of our lads had been knocked to the floor. One was completely out, due to a truncheon to the skull. Then a huge roar went up. "Come on." Our lot had spotted their rivals at the end of the road. I watched as they steamed the police line to get through to Wednesday. A wild fist to truncheon brawl developed. Police officers were being dragged to the floor and beaten with their own sticks. I had never seen anything like it. Then someone shouted that Wednesday were heading around the block. Only 10 of us ran to head them off, as most of boys were at it with the busies. As we ran up, a couple of taxicabs went past with a few Wednesdays in them. Zooey and a few others attacked them. We rounded another comer and saw the first few Wednesday coming down the road. "Don't effing shit! I'm going nowhere!" I screamed. We were around 20 yards away when more busies screeched up and began to block off this road as well. LT was. At this point I spotted Jester, one of the Wednesday lads who had attacked us at Hillsborough. I was one-on-one, and I had to have him. Even though he was standing behind 3 police officers, I completely lost the plot and did something very stupid for a boy who has been around as long as I had. To keep it neutral, let's hear from a Sheffield Wednesday lad, a member of the Owls Crime Squad. I am going to read out true life accounts of Wednesday lads from the book Flying with the Owls Crime Squad. The book is available from Amazon, and I will leave a link in video description if you wish to purchase the book. I highly recommend it, especially to Owls fans. But let's dive straight into it. The visit of Sheffield United for the now infamous Boxing Day massacre in the year 1979 saw a massive police operation in force and an 11 o'clock kick-off. The game was played in front of a record dark crowd of over 49,000 and resulted in not one single arrest. I was on the East Bank that day and was feeling very much under the weather, but a 4-0 trouncing of our city neighbours brightened my mood considerably until I threw up all over the bathroom later that night. That game proved to be a catalyst for the Owls, who went on to storm up the league and ultimately achieve promotion. The return match at Bramall Lane saw another crowd of over 45,000, but this time the match did not pass off so peacefully. Wednesday fans had about half of the Shoreham Cop, and fighting broke out before the game. Unfortunately for me, I missed much of the trouble. I had a ticket to go on the terrace and did not get into the ground until just before kick-off. The bulk of the trouble had subsided by that time, but the sight of so many Wednesday fans on the Shoreham end was a source of great pride. The game ended in a 1-1 draw, which was good enough for a Wednesday side now in the thick of the promotion hunt, but it signalled a death for United's fading hopes. They would be relegated to the 4th Division just over a year later, on a day that ultimately passed into Sheffield folklore as Thank Givens Day, after United player Don Givens missed a last-minute penalty against Walsall. That defeat meant the Blades had sunk lower than Wednesday ever had. Then there was the 2-legged League Cup clash against Sheffield United. The first game was at Hillsborough, and the Owls ran out comfortable winners 2-0. The second leg came a few days later, and at this match I would meet up for the first time with a character who remains a major face in the OCS to this day. This individual I shall call Laver. His older brother was also a big hitter in the Wednesday mob, and his reputation preceded him. I got to meet Laver through a mutual friend of ours called Tony, and although he was 2 years my junior, he was a big lad for his age. I recall walking past the Masons on Hillsborough Corner that night and seeing Laver's brother with his cronies plotting in the beer garden. We figured something was on the cards. Tony, young Laver and I stood in the Bramall Lane end that night. We could see a largish group of Wednesday in the Shoreham, although much smaller in number than had assembled for the match of the previous season. It was a dark evening, and it was difficult to see what was going on at the other end of the ground, but I could sense that something was afoot. A detailed account of the evening's events from a participant in the Naughtiest will follow later in the chapter. The game ended in a 1-1 draw, and we went through to the next round at the expense of our greatest and bitterest rivals. At the start of the 1982 season, I was determined that I had to start getting away, not only to try and spot trouble, but also because I deemed it necessary if I was to be a true supporter. My older brother had, by this time, started to follow Sheffield United all over the country, he was constantly rubbing me about my lack of travels. Even though I had not missed a competitive game of any kind at Hillsborough since January 1980, his constant jibes about me being a part-time supporter had hit home. In another article, OCS member Douglas Naylor had this to say during an interview, but Douglas Naylor, 41, from Sheffield, said he feared he would be banned from travelling after he appeared on television and defended his right to fight other fans. Mr. Naylor, who has co-authored a book on Sheffield Wednesday's Owls Crime Squad Hooligan group, told Kyle football violence was not that serious. He said, "There's more serious things in life than guys having a fight at a football match. It's a part of life. The best one was a bloodbath at Manchester United." Kyle asked if he was happy to be seen as a hooligan. Mr. Naylor replied, "I don't want to fight someone on the street just 'cause he's got a certain shirt on. I want their top lad, their main hitter, their hardest boy, toe to toe." Mr. Naylor said on the programme, "If you go to Istanbul to watch football or anywhere, you've got to watch your back." Mr. Naylor said after the programme that he believed Kyle had stitched him up, but admitted, "It's my own fault, I shouldn't have gone on it." Now let's delve into the history of the Steel City Derby and look at why the deep-rooted history, rivalry and hatred exists and how it started. Supporters of the two Sheffield clubs have a fierce but healthy relationship. This goes right back to the year 1889, after Sheffield Wednesday, formed in the year 1867, had vacated Bramall Lane due to a dispute over rent. To compensate for the loss in revenue, the Cricket Committee took the decision to form another football club. Thus Sheffield United were established, and Bramall Lane subsequently became their home. The teams first met on the 15th of December 1890 at Wednesday's Olive Grove ground, with the Wednesday playing a friendly match against the newly formed Sheffield United, that the home team won 2-1. The first competitive Steel City Derby fixture took place on the 16th of October 1893, following United's promotion to the First Division the previous season. It ended 1-1. Most Steel City derbies have taken place in the top two tiers of English football, with only two seasons, 1979 and 2011, featuring both teams in the third tier. Alan Quinn became the first player to score a goal for both clubs in a Steel City derby match. He scored for Sheffield Wednesday in their 3-1 defeat to United at Bramall Lane in February 2003. He signed to United from Wednesday in the year 2004 and scored the winning goal for Sheffield United in a 1-0 win over Sheffield Wednesday at Bramall Lane on 4th December 2005. The most famous match at Bramall Lane was on 8th September 1951, an encounter United won 7-3 in front of a crowd of 51,000. Wednesday scored after just 90 seconds through Thomas, but goals from Derek Hawksworth and Harold Brooke gave United a 2-1 interval lead, which would have been greater if McIntosh in the Wednesday goal had not saved a Fred Furness penalty. Dennis Woodhead equalised for Wednesday after 60 minutes, but in rapid succession Alf Ringstead, Hawksworth and Ringstead again, and Fred Smith scored for United. Woodhead pulled one back for Wednesday before Brooke made the score 7-3. In February 1967, broadcasting history was made when the derby at Bramall Lane was shown live on pay TV. United's Bill Punton scored the only goal in the first pay-per-view league game on British television, and only the second to be televised live. The coverage was available to around 700 subscribers in the Sheffield area, who had to pay 10 shillings, 50 pence for the privilege of watching. The Boxing Day Massacre was a match played on December 26, 1979. Sheffield Wednesday won 4-0, with goals from Ian Mellor, Terry Curran, Mark Smith and Jeff King. The United side at the time were top of the league, while Wednesday were fourth in the table. Sheffield Wednesday were promoted at the end of the season. On 3rd April 1993, the two teams met in the FA Cup semi-finals. The game was scheduled to be played at Ellen Road, while the other semi between Arsenal and Spurs was to be played at Wembley. However, the Football Association was forced to move the fixture to Wembley due to extreme pressure from the fans of both teams. The match itself proved to be a classic, with Wednesday winning 2-1 after extra time, Chris Waddle and Mark Bright scoring for Wednesday and Alan Cork scoring for United. The Steel City derby at Hillsborough on Sunday 24th September 2017 saw United claim their biggest win at Hillsborough with their 4-2 victory in front of a crowd of over 32,000. Goals for United came from John Fleck in the 3rd minute, Mark Duffy in the 67th minute, and 2 in the 15th and 77th minute, respectively, from Leon Clark against his former side, with Gary Hooper in the 47th minute, scored in the first half as 2 minutes were added on, and Lucas João scoring for Wednesday. This game was nicknamed the Bouncing Day Massacre by the United fans, due to a chant by the Wednesday fans following João's goal that ended abruptly as a result of Mark Duffy's goal shortly afterwards. After Sheffield Wednesday's relegation from the Premier League after the 2000 season, both teams frequented the same league for 7 of the next 10 years. This caused the local rivalry between the two teams to increase and to cause an emergence of crowd trouble in the years 2003, 2008 and 2019. Before the 2001 season, both teams were only in the same league for 6 seasons, between the 70s and late 90s, 29 seasons. Although this period did see one FA Cup semi-final meeting in the year 1993, and a Zenith Data Cup full members cup meeting years later. And to finish off, I am going to leave you this statement. I would love to hear your comments on it. Over many years, it seems apparent that United fans actually hate Wednesday more than they love United. They seem extremely vitriolic in their hate of the Owls, to the extent that I wonder if they would rather see Wednesday relegated than see United promoted. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you subscribe, you will be notified when we release a new video. It could be your firm we make a video about next, so don't miss out and hit the subscribe button. You can find me on Facebook or email me if you have a good story to tell. See you next time.